I recently had an individual comment on one of my posts stating that the claims that I was making in that particular video were controversial and unsubstantiated. And if you've consumed any of my content in the past, you should know that, for the most part at least, none of the stuff that I say in these videos are my own opinion. Pretty much everything is referenced, and the source in which I derive that information is usually on the screen. So if you don't agree, you can check out the article for yourself. This got me thinking about how information has become something that is incredibly polarizing. And it's kind of a strange thing. I don't know with 100% certainty at least why that may be, but it's kind of odd, don't you think? I mean, I was just speaking to a friend of mine recently about this very topic. We were discussing how, from what I remember, taking into consideration that I'm still a pretty young guy, so maybe my take is completely skewed, but when I was younger, if people sat on the opposite side of the political aisle, they could still be friends. And that doesn't happen very often anymore. So in this video, I want to try and dig a little bit deeper as to why that may be. We all have our own biases. You have yours and I have mine. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong about that, or even right. But do these biases jade our interpretation of new incoming data when it either confirms our existing bias versus conflicts with it? So let's find out. In this study, 3 scientists recruited 48 American students who either strongly supported the death penalty or strongly opposed it, and they presented them with 2 separate studies. One offered evidence regarding the effectiveness of capital punishment, and the other showed data regarding its ineffectiveness. In reality, the studies were completely fabricated. The scientists just made them up, but the students didn't know that. So, did the students find that the studies were convincing, and did they believe that the data provided good evidence that could possibly alter their preconceived opinion? They did, but only when the study reinforced their original viewpoint. They came to the conclusion that people who hold strong opinions on complex social issues are likely to examine relevant empirical evidence in a biased manner. They are apt to accept confirming evidence at face value while subjecting discontinuing evidence to critical evaluation. So what actually happened? Those students who strongly supported capital punishment thought that the study demonstrated that the study that demonstrated its effectiveness was well conducted, but at the same time they argued that the other study, which did not support capital punishment, was poorly executed and not compelling at all. And guess what? Those who were originally against capital punishment assessed the studies the complete opposite way around. And as a result, believers in the death penalty left the lab supporting capital punishment with a far greater passion than before, while those in opposition to the death penalty ended up opposing capital punishment even greater than they had than when they originally came to the lab. So in another study, they asked a group of volunteers about their opinions regarding climate change. As in, did they believe that man-made climate change was occurring? And based on their answers, they divided them into either weak believers of man-made climate change or strong believers. What they then did was inform everyone that climate scientists estimated that the average global temperature would rise by approximately 6 degrees Fahrenheit by the year 2100, and then they asked them for their own estimates of the likely temperature rise by 2100. And here's where it gets really interesting. Half of the volunteers were told that in recent weeks, prominent scientists had reassessed the data and concluded that the situation was far better than they had previously thought, suggesting a likely temperature increase of only 1 to 5 degrees instead of the original quoted 6 degrees. And the other half were told that in recent weeks, prominent scientists had reassessed the data and concluded that the situation was far worse than previously thought, suggesting a likely temperature increase of 7 to 11 degrees. All the participants were then asked to provide new personal estimates. So, what do you think happened? Did people change their estimates in light of the experts' assessment? Well, they state that we found that those with high climate change belief scores showed asymmetrical updating, changing their beliefs more in response to bad news than good news, while those in the low climate change belief scores showed the opposite asymmetrical updating, changing their beliefs more in response to good news than bad news, meaning they found that people altered their opinion only if they had received information that fit their original worldview. The weak believers in man-made climate change were influenced by the comforting news that the situation was better than previously thought, but the alarming news had no impact whatsoever on their new estimates. Strong believers, however, showed the exact opposite pattern upon learning that the scientists thought that the situation was even worse than previously believed. They identified with that cause even greater, but were less influenced by the news that the scientists now thought that the problem was not quite so dire. So what does that mean? When you provide someone with new data, we quickly accept evidence that confirms our preconceived notion and assess conflicting evidence with a critical eye. I'm a business owner, and so to put it into perspective for myself, someone could come up to me and say, wow, I've been seeing all the content that you put out online and the people that you're helping, and if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to build something really big. And I would leave that encounter thinking, yeah, they're right. If I keep doing what I'm doing, things will only continue to get better for me and my business. Whereas on the flip side, and in fact, this happened just the other day, I met a chiro who claimed that he used to do the exact same thing that I currently do. But he had to convert his practice into a more high volume clinic, as in seeing more patients doing more basic chiromusculoskeletal stuff, because he wasn't able to make a good living when doing what I do currently and seeing less people. This gentleman spent probably 90 minutes trying to convince me that I should convert my practice to how he practices because whenever he first started out, he was just like me. And now he's doing so much better financially. And guess what? I left that conversation thinking, that guy doesn't know anything about my business. Who does he think he is? Now, in my defense, he's been in practice for, I think it was 12 years, and his office looked like an absolute dump. And I just passed 2 years, and mine looks an awful lot nicer, I think. So I don't know that he was the best person to be handing out advice, unsolicited advice at that. But regardless, I just wanted to share this thought with you in hopes that it's something that makes you go,